welcome to Collaboration and Teamwork. I've got a couple of questions to start with. So who here has been an employee or a parent or part of a group of friends, a congregation, or they were a business owner?
Yeah.
If so, you've been part of a team.
Yeah.
Who's planned a wedding, held a child's birthday party, holiday with family or friends, planned a Christmas dinner, a project or event, because that all involves some form of collaboration. So what I'm talking about today isn't necessarily just about business or employees or those kinds of teams. It can be any group of people. In fact, if you've done any of those sort of things, you'll know it's not easy to get a group of people together to do anything, and often it's described as herding cats. So how do you achieve your goal whilst staying sane and keeping everyone happy? And this is something I'm really passionate about, and I've a lot of experience from it, from various roles as being a teacher, a team leader, a project manager, a facilitator, and a trainer. So if you want to know about herding cats, to do something productive, try standing in front of a classroom full of children. So, as I've mentioned, I'm talking about working with any type of team, from a family through to a major project involving different stakeholders. The fundamental principles are the same. So how would you define a team? Well, the dictionary definition of a team is two or more people who come together as a team to achieve a common goal. Now, I define a passionate team as a team that believes in what they do, and they're excited and they're motivated. And you only need to see an elite sports team working smoothly together, and they always seem telepathic. Their grit and determination is palpable, and everyone in the team knows their role, and they've honed their individual skill to perfection, and they come together like a well-oiled machine. So what makes collaboration and teamwork so powerful? Well, John Donne said, "No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent." In other words, we function better when we work together. We're not isolated, and working together with purpose and passion equals power. And that power is what moves the team forward. So what are the secret ingredients to building a powerful team? Well, I believe there are 7 factors, and I call them the 7 pillars. First of all, you need to know yourself, your values, your passion, and why you are doing what you're doing. Then you need to know your team. What are their values, their passions, their skills, their strengths and weaknesses? And if anyone's missing, who do you need on your team? Thirdly, you need good communication, and it's vital. Understanding the different styles that people have for learning, communicating, and their different personality types. And the fourth thing is culture, and that is what you permit or you don't permit within your team. Then there's growth, learning skills and empowering people. If a team grows together, then there's a bond that forms. And then there's structure, which are the controls, policies, measurement, methodology. And then there's repeating what you do. So there's planning, doing, reviewing, and also repeating in terms of training somebody else up to be a leader, and maybe expanding your team that way with managers, or, you know, if it's network marketing, it might be team members. But today, I'm only going to talk about the first 5. I'm leaving out the structure side and the repeating. So why should we collaborate with other people and work as a team? Well, as a team, a group of people can do things and get them done more quickly. So more hands make light work, obviously, as in the barn raising that's shown there. They can conceive and produce grand ideas and pool resources to build things like iconic buildings like the Empire State. Projects can continue beyond the person who initiated them, whether they leave or whether they die, as in Gaudi's case. And there's the beautiful building of La Familia Sagrada, which is still not finished 50 or 60 years after his death, but his idea is carrying on. And then there's those who bring an impact to many people and help them. And Mother Theresa is an ideal person to describe that, where she brings together people or brought together people who could help the poor in Calcutta. And then there's those who start a movement that changes the world. And I've just picked Gandhi in this instance, but there's loads of people that you know, Nelson Mandela, and even that young girl, I've forgotten her name, Greta, who's taken on the challenge of global warming. So no one person could do these as an individual. In the barn example, they might do it very, very slowly, but it would take them a lot longer. So by doing things on their own, they wouldn't be able to achieve their vision. So they need to attract other people to help them achieve their vision. And also, working as a team, there's a lot more creativity. An individual might have an idea, but is it a good one? Is it the best it can be? And is it something they could do on their own? So when a group gets together to discuss an idea, they often make something that's much more amazing than one person who has an idea on their own. The ideas flow, and each individual idea can spark a new one, and so they build something that's better than maybe the original concept. And each person can add their own experience and skills to bring it into life and bring a fully completed product. And this, of course, is why creative agencies put teams together. The other aspect is that working as a team, you can bring in checks and balances. You know that annoying person that says, yes, but. And they're the ones that always see potential problems. Well, they are actually the ones who can help identify potential pitfalls and avoid traps. And this avoids future problems, things that might have been unseen. And it takes something that maybe is unfit for purpose and turns it into something that's a safe product. And of course, there's improving on existing products. And this can be based on experience and on consumer needs. So we need to move with the times. So having a team that looks at it and puts forward ideas, we get things that move from, as we can see with the digital advancements, going from floppy disk of 5 1/4 right down to the small SIM cards that we have today. And the telephone is unrecognizable from when it first started. And of course, we move from typewriters now into laptops. We still have typewriters, but they're kind of seen as museum pieces now. So it's helping to advance things, having a team that looks at something that exists and then looking at how can we improve it. And then, of course, there are times when there's massive change. And a solution can be imposed on the people who are affected by that change, or they can be consulted, and the ones providing the solution to the problem. And I experienced this years ago when I was asked to come in as a temporary manager for a team at a water company. Actually, it wasn't actually at the water company. We were taking some of the team members from the water company, and I was working for one of the companies that took them on. And so there were three groups of people that I had to bring together. And this was to support the water company with their laboratory system 24/7, 365 days of the year. And just to make it a complete nightmare, all of the employees were on different terms and conditions because they'd come from different companies. So I had to come up with a solution that meant that it was fair for everyone and that they would buy into. So I could have made suggestions, or I could have imposed a solution on them. But I knew I'd meet resistance. I knew there would be people saying, oh yes, but, and you can't do that because. So I called a meeting and I presented the problem to them, and I asked how we could all work together to find a solution that everyone would be happy with, that they would find acceptable, which is what we did. And they all were happy with what was chosen. And then I presented that to the managing directors of the two companies that had taken the staff on, and with some minor tweaks, they accepted that too. And the result was that we had a functional team that worked as a unit towards the same goal, which was serving the customer. So people who are involved in the solution actually are more fully invested in it. And any team can be a great support network. And remember that the person at the top can't be there without the support of others in the team. And even elite athletes, let's say such as a Formula One driver, if you call them an athlete, or an individual sports personality, they rely on a whole team of people to support them in the background. You don't see a Formula One driver getting out of the car and changing their own tyres at a pit stop. So the team is really important to their success. And as a business owner, particularly if you're a sole trader, it can be quite isolating and lonely. So that's why a business network can be a great source of support and even a way of finding partners to collaborate with. And then, of course, there are more formal and informal groups who form support networks, their own support networks, such as mums groups. So it might just be a couple of mums having coffee and chatting about their children, or it could be one of those toddler groups, whatever. And then there are friendship groups that form, there's lunch clubs for the elderly, and so on. So teams can be a great source of support. So it pays to learn how to develop and keep a passionate team. Your business or project will be stronger if you're passionate about what you do, and that you find people to support that passion and that idea who are also passionate about what they do. So why do some companies have loyal employees and customers? When Richard Branson started his business, people worked for him for very low wages, and they stayed loyal because it was fun and he had a vision. And he was passionate about his business, and that attracted people to him. Think about it. There's a difference between a waiter who is just doing the job to earn money and one who is passionate about the restaurant or the food where he works. The passionate one will charm the customers, upsell, and create an amazing atmosphere for the place. And he or she will stay longer and be keen to learn, because he or she believes in what they're doing. Whereas the other one will keep changing jobs just to find a place that will pay more. So the first pillar, pillar number one, is the way of building your passionate team. Pillar number one is understanding yourself. Now, this is important because as a leader, you need to understand what motivates you, what is it that stops you, what are you afraid of doing, and what stresses you out. You know, how far can you push yourself or be pushed before you crack in some way. And by embracing who you are and learning and growing into the person you need to be, you can then be the sort of person who can lead others. But first of all, you've got to be able to lead yourself. And you do this by finding your values. What's important to you? These are things that mean something to you. And if people or events go against your values, you'll feel uncomfortable. And when you're leading a team or you're in a collaboration and you're very clear about your values, it will flag up times when things are starting to go wrong. Because if you're feeling uncomfortable, the chances are there's something going against one of your values. Know your passions, because these define the direction you're heading in. Often people think it's one passion, but you have many passions. You could be passionate about your family as well as your business. So it's understanding what your drivers are, and what you can do once you know your passions is make your decisions around those passions, because it will make it easier, and it will make it easier for you to motivate yourself as well. If you know your passions and you focus on them, then you're actually being true to yourself. You're being your true you. The combination of your values and your passions is what creates your unique contribution to the world. The next thing is communication, because we all experience the world through our senses. And some senses are more dominant than others. And these influence the words we use and the way that we like to receive information and learn. So someone who's very visual will want to receive visual information, maybe reading material or something like that. Someone who's auditory will like to hear, they'll probably listen to audio tapes. And someone who's kinesthetic, which means they like touch and feelings, they will need to experience something and actually do the job, if you like, in order to learn. And then there's smell and taste, which are less likely unless you're maybe a cook or a perfumier or somebody like that. But most people are usually either predominantly visual, predominantly auditory, or predominantly kinesthetic. And the other side of it is your personality. And this will help you with your interactions with other people. So are you the sort of person who likes to just get things done? Or are you the sort of person who likes to collaborate and help people and you're caring? Are you the sort of person who likes to have fun and be party all the time? Or are you the sort of person who likes to do research and find out all the details before you start a project? And it's important to know these things, because you may need to work with someone who's completely different to you. And you need to be aware of how you operate so you can adjust it according to the person in front of you. So it's no good being gung-ho with someone who likes to know all the details before they start. Conversely, it will frustrate someone who is gung-ho and wants to get started if you're going through the minute details with them. So understanding these things is vital. Also, dig really deep and be honest with yourself and answer these questions. How do you react to criticism? Do you take it on as something really bad, or do you take it on as an opportunity to learn something and grow? Does fear cause you to procrastinate? And what do you do about it? What causes you stress and how do you react to it? And that's the important thing. And is your internal dialogue negative? Or are you telling yourself that you can do things and move forward? So if you're not happy with the answers to any of those questions, what are you doing about it? What are you going to do to change the situation? Are you open to changing your mindset and learning new skills and growing into a self-sufficient person? This is a continuous process, and by being on a journey of self-discovery, you grow into a better leader. And it's the leader who thinks they know everything who puts in their own constraints. So pillar number 2 is knowing your team. If you are responsible for finding the members of your team, then make sure you find the right people. And that is maybe not as easy as it sounds, but or easy as it can be said. And this is also true when joining a team. If you're choosing to join a group or a team, make sure you're in the right place and you've found the right people. Now, if you've done the work in pillar number 1 on yourself and you know yourself, then it's easier because you know you're looking for like-minded people. Those who have those same values as you and are passionate about the same things as you, or passionate about what they do. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same passions, because, for example, I was looking to change my accountant because mine was retiring, and the one I went for was a guy who was really passionate about not just accounting, but about what it did to help his customers. And that was really important to me. So it's those passions that we're talking about. Somebody being really passionate about what they're delivering to the team. So always, when you're looking for team members, be authentic yourself. If you try to be someone else, someone you're not, you'll be found out. It also means when you're authentic that you'll actually attract the right people into your life and into your team, because you, as I said with Richard Branson, you know, because he was a fun personality, he attracted fun people in. They wanted to follow him. What happens though if you're currently surrounded by people who go against your values or are negative about your passions and goals? Just check in on why that might be the case. What are you allowing and what are you holding on to in yourself that might be attracting these people? It might be a case of you've actually changed from the person you were, and that the old group of friends maybe aren't serving you as well because they're still stuck or negative. And because you've grown as a person, you need to attract new people, the ones that are empowering and supporting you and moving you forward. And either let the others go, or if that's not possible, because they're family or very close friends, maybe reduce the amount of time you spend with them and just associate with those that do empower you. So why do some companies have loyal employees and customers? And it's very true. I love this quote, that employers generally get the employees they deserve, because it's all about the way you treat people. If you have the right mindset, you will attract the right people. Now, if you've got a mindset that's all about money and profit, you will attract people with a similar mindset. And that means they won't necessarily be loyal and stick around, because they will always be looking for the next opportunity to earn more. So if you appreciate people and find out how to develop them and use their talents, they will stick around because you value them and you've helped them to grow themselves. I remember talking to a lady once about how she could save money by switching from British Telecom to my company. And she said she would never move away from British Telecom because they had trained her. And because of that, she had an excellent career that she enjoyed. It meant she was self-sufficient, and she now had a great pension. Now that shows how care creates loyalty. The way we attract, build and retain a passionate team is by building strong relationships. Once you've found the people for your team, you need to continue to nurture those relationships, because not everyone's a superstar and they don't have to be. In fact, a group of ordinary people can produce something that's outstanding if they do it well. Remember also that you're not perfect, and neither is anyone else. And it's those imperfections that make us who we are. And sometimes we can be critical of other people's perfections and ignore our own. So it's a good thing to remember that from time to time. It helps us appreciate what it would be like without the imperfect people in our team. And this is particularly important in the family team. For example, my husband has a habit of leaving cupboard doors and drawers just slightly open. And there are times when I've walked into them because I haven't noticed what he's done. And I've ended up with bruises. And he drives me mad because when I come across the cupboard, I just have to shut it. And then I have to just take a breath and remind myself of what it might mean if he wasn't there to leave them open. So appreciate those imperfections. So pillar number 3 is good communication. This is the lifeblood flowing through the veins of any successful team. So how do you feel if you're giving someone an important message and they aren't listening to you? So if you want people to listen to you, you need to listen to them. That way, they feel valued and appreciated, and they're more likely to take your message on board and listen to you. My son, when he first started work, went into copywriting because writing is his passion. He studied creative writing at his university. And his first job was working for an agency that sold, the things in the Sunday Times supplements, the coins and all those sorts of things. And he became depressed and had suicidal thoughts because of the way the boss treated him. And a lot of other team members were leaving because of the way they were treated. He was told off for being late, even though he made up the time because the trains had been late and he couldn't get there on time. And when it snowed, he made his way all the way across London to his job, and then found out that locals hadn't bothered to go into work, into the office, and yet he was still told off for being late. He left, obviously, and now he works for the NHS, an NHS organisation for all the NHS trusts, and he really enjoys his job. They allow him to work flexibly, so he has one day a week to do his creative writing. He writes plays. And not only that, they promoted him and encouraged him and developed him. And most importantly, they tapped into his passion, and he now writes their blogs. So he is totally invested in helping that organisation out, and he really enjoys his job. So remember to communicate in the appropriate ways for your team members. So avoid making assumptions. Words and concepts can mean different things to different people. If I say the word chocolate to you, some of you will hear the rustle of paper. Some of you will salivate because of the taste. Some of you will have smelled it. Some of you will have visualized a particular type of chocolate. And some of you would have heard the wrapping being torn off. So again, it's all about the ways that people receive information. So remember also, there can be cultural differences. I often have fun with Canadians because they go away for the weekend for, they go to cottages, and they don't realise that, and they talk about, I'm going cottaging this weekend. They don't realise that that actually has a totally different connotation over here. And if you don't know what it is, message me afterwards and I'll explain. But it's something inappropriate for this talk. So remember cultural differences in the language you use. And also, you don't know what's going on in people's lives. So avoid making judgments. Listen to what people are saying. And if you're in an office environment, it can be quite useful to listen to the chit chat that goes on, general banter, and what people are saying, because that tells you a lot about how they're feeling. And it's all about how people are feeling. And if they feel that they have a voice and are contributing and making a difference, that actually might give you an idea about their passions, regardless of what the business does. And you might be able to tap into those, as I gave in the example of my son. When you hold meetings, make sure they have a purpose and get people involved in those meetings and invested in them. Stories are a great way to communicate. They get the point across. And in fact, that one on the left, that picture, is about a company in America who embody teamwork. That's why I love it. They attract customers from all over the world because people come to watch them. Whenever a customer chooses a fish, the server takes the fish and throws it across the display to the packer for preparing and wrapping. And of course, people are waiting to see whether they're going to catch it or whether they're going to drop it. So it's entertaining, and they're telling people about the fish as they do it, and they're having banter and throwing fish around. And that story sells their company. They're on the internet for it and are well known. So encourage your team to develop their own stories. Everyone's got a story, and they're much more memorable than facts. So get them to tell their own personal stories and why they're doing what they're doing. And that helps them to create their own passion around it. Remember that people copy what you do. So as the leader of a team, you need to make sure that you show the emotional state you want your team to have. If you're angry or you're worried, how do you think your team will feel? How will they react? And remember, you are as much part of the team. You're not separate from them. You might be the boss, but you are still part of the team. So if you want a happy and harmonious team, and one that's having fun and enjoying themselves and being supportive, you have to be that example. You need to show them the way to do it. And if someone is critical, take it as an opportunity to review what you're doing, because maybe they're right and you need to adjust something. However, if they're being negative and continually being negative, and it seems just for the sake of it, and they don't seem to be getting out of it, then the best way to deal with it is to start asking them questions. And remember to ask them if they have solutions, because they may have, again, spotted a problem and got a good solution for it. You can turn around a negative atmosphere by asking those questions, because if they're negative and they're starting to influence other people, then you need to change that. And you can start asking questions that gradually lead them around to a positive outlook. The workplace has changed, and now the age range is larger. There can be actually 5 generations of people in the workplace at the same time. And in many instances, there are young people managing those who are older than them. And this means that there are different aspirations and expectations between those generations. Many of the younger generation need to feel part of something bigger. So give them some hope and meaning. And one way to help the group to gel is to do some group training. And this keeps everyone in the loop and make sure they have a shared understanding of where you're going. Encourage them to read and listen for personal growth, as well as learning about the company, its products, and its industry. Now, this is really important, the culture of your company or your team. It's your brand. And like it or not, your team will develop its own culture. And if you don't step in and define it yourself, someone else will. And it can happen by stealth. So culture is important. Make sure you build it so that people feel they're able to speak up, and discourage any gossip or rumours, because these can be destructive. Make it a policy that it's not allowed in your team, that you don't discuss other people, you don't denigrate other people. If you want people to be on time, it's no good you just turning up and being on time, but they don't even know you're there. You just go into your office. Make sure that you are seen to be on time. I know from experience, I've had a business partner who came later on. I'd open up and she came later on, and the staff started to say, well, if she's allowed to come late, why aren't we? So make sure that you are seen to be embodying what you expect from your team, because people copy what you do, not what you say. Empower people to make their own decisions and create an atmosphere of appreciation. Let people know when they've done a good job. It shows that you notice, and it builds their confidence. And I love the idea of maybe having a compliment appreciation day or something, or just making sure that you compliment people and encourage it as a culture in the team. Because when people feel good about themselves, they produce better results. It says nothing beats that human touch. Check your own attitude and the attitude of others, because it can spread like wildfire, whether it's positive or negative. So if you have an attitude about a particular customer, your staff will take that on. If you have a particular attitude about a set of circumstances or groups, if your attitude is, this is a big problem, then your staff or your team will take that on as a big problem. So remember that people have different things affecting their lives. You don't always know what's going on in their lives. So keeping a supportive atmosphere and being understanding when necessary can go a long way to getting the best out of people. If you find yourself being judgmental, remember that other people may also judge you, especially if you allow that in your team culture. So always treat people the way you would like to be treated yourself. And develop those leadership skills in other people. So good leaders know how to empower and build up other people, and they teach and mentor other people and pass it on. And that creates a lot of loyalty as well. So by helping somebody and lifting them up, allowing them to be in control of their own destiny, actually means a lot to them, whether they go on to somewhere else or whether they stay with you and become a manager or whatever it is, or maybe even take the business over when you want to exit. So build up and empower those people. If people become disengaged, their productivity drops and they become demotivated. So by encouraging growth and giving people opportunities to try new things, do new things, and creating that culture of personal development and personal growth, you actually help to keep them engaged. And it might be an idea to have a team library where people can borrow books or audios or swap them, or tell each other about the things that they're reading or listening to. Asking what people think expands their thinking and makes them accountable, and it empowers them to feel that they can contribute and take on more responsibility. Involving people in plans and decisions creates a culture of collaboration. So encourage people to help each other out, particularly when someone is overloaded or overwhelmed. There's often the case where somebody's dashing to get something done and there are other people twiddling their thumbs thinking, what shall I do? Or even worse, checking on Google or something like that and watching cat videos. Encourage them to help each other out. And by that I mean become a leader, not a manager. If someone asks you a question, don't answer it straight away. Encourage them to come up with the answer themselves. You don't have to have all the answers. And often you might be surprised with the answer they come up with. It's just often there's the default of deferring to the leader, asking their opinion, asking if, almost that, for a pat on the head and am I doing it right? Rather than saying, okay, you have the power and the ability to work that one out for yourself. By all means, come and check with me if it's okay. But if you've come up with a solution rather than expecting me as the manager to come up with the solution, it's much better. It helps them to grow and understand what they're doing in their role. So creating that culture of teamwork means that you get everyone working together to get things done. So if someone is struggling, then other members of the team should be there to help and support them. And show this by example. You might have to do this yourself in the beginning. So if you see somebody struggling, don't ask somebody else to do it and and think that it's beneath you. Go and do it, help the person, and by helping them, then encourage them to help someone else in the future. That way you start to develop that team collaboration where they see everyone is involved, whether they're in the managerial position or whether they're the lowest of the low, just joined. You know? Teamwork involves thinking about other people rather than just yourself. So there are often some questions that I'm asked. And the most common one I get is, what if I don't know my passion? Well, your passions come from your heart. They are the things that you enjoy in life. They're the things that get you out of bed in the morning. And if your goals aren't aligned with your passions, then you'll find it hard to remain motivated, and you'll find it hard to motivate your team. And the same goes for your team. So the best way to find your passions is to take the guesswork out of it and go through a defined process. You can then help other people find theirs, and you will also be able to motivate them better when you find ways to link their passions to the goals of the team and what they're doing. And I'll be telling you a little bit about a way to do that in a moment. So what if their passion isn't the same as yours? Well, know what they are passionate about and then find a way to link it so that it dovetails into yours and fits with what they do within the business. And I gave you the example of my son as a prime example of that. He's not passionate about meetings or NHS. Well, he is passionate about the NHS, but he's not passionate about healing or anything like that. He is passionate about writing, so they tapped into that passion. Another one is, what if I can't find the right people, or even I don't seem to be able to find the right people? Well, first of all, check that you are asking for the right people in the right way. Go back to pillar number 1, which is know yourself, and look at who you are attracting. Review your thinking, because what you are sending out, you will get back. So make sure you have the right onboarding process. So don't just take anybody. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning, when I was brought in to manage that team of people from 3 different companies, I was also tasked with finding the person to take on the permanent role. I started in the August, and I was told they only needed me till Christmas. And I now joke, yeah, you didn't say which Christmas, because it took a year to find the right person, and several rounds of interviews, finding people, and then them not being quite the right fit, or we weren't the right fit for them, and we had to go round again and again. And we had experts in doing all sorts of group discussions and things like that in the interviews, just to see how people interacted. And it took that time because of the team dynamics that we had and the needs of the customer. So take your time in finding the right people. And if you take the time to find their passions and their values before you take them on, you will have a better idea of whether they're the right fit for you and for your team. For example, if you are passionate about attention to detail and the process of doing it right, so maybe it's building something or cleaning something, you want somebody who has a passion and those values as well. So you need to find someone with the same attributes, that has that passion for doing things right and following the process. Make sure you're searching in the right place for the people as well. Where do you find the types of person that you want? Yes, you can go to an agency and go through that process, and they can do some of the weeding out for you. You can go to business networks and ask, you know, does anybody know? Or you can think laterally about it. And, for example, go to a hobby group or a group that's industry focused, so that you find the people who are already partway there. They might have a passion for being creative and painting, or modeling or whatever. And you'll know whether they are right for your team, because that's the kind of person that you want to attract. Somebody who's got a bit of creativity in them. So check where you're asking, and also check yourself and who you're attracting. Also, what you do if you're stuck with the team you're given, as I was, and as you are with your families. Well, first of all, you connect and build on the relationships very carefully, and you get to know your team using pillars number 1 and number 2, knowing yourself and knowing your team. If you have a negative team member, remember you don't need all the answers. You can use careful, open questions to expand their thinking. Be as kind as possible. It costs you nothing, and it can help build those relationships. Find out their passions and values if you haven't already. This will help with motivating them. And remember, not everyone is motivated by money, holidays, cars, or events. Quite often, they are motivated if they feel they're part of something bigger, something larger, and that they make a difference to people. And that can actually be much more powerful motivation than, or you'll get a voucher for Christmas or a hamper or whatever. So what next? Well, first of all, take the passion test. Remember that I mentioned there's a process for finding someone's passions. And there is a way to do this via the passion test. And many people who take it are surprised with the results, because sometimes they think they know what their passions are. And sometimes it's not what they thought it would be. I thought my passion was helping people, and I discovered it wasn't. Eventually, after taking the passion test a couple of times and honing and refining it, I discovered my passion was actually helping people to collaborate together and achieve something much bigger than themselves. And I've often encountered people who don't know what they're passionate about, and that's actually quite common. They just kind of go through life and take what life throws at them, and they've never really been inspired by something. And when you ask them, they go, well, I don't know that I'm passionate about anything. And it's difficult to motivate people like that. And it's difficult for them to motivate themselves as well, because they just kind of let things go, you know, it doesn't matter. And my husband was one of those. And he took the test, and he discovered that he's passionate about making up stories. And we all knew he liked history, and we all thought that he was passionate about history. But he kept saying, no, not really. I don't feel that, you know, I like it. I don't feel that passionate about it. But he then realized that he loved telling stories. And in fact, he used to tell stories to our children and make them up off the top of his head. And they still talk about them today, and they're in their 30s. And so now he's writing stories. He's writing books, and he has ideas coming out of his head for a whole series, and usually with a history bias, but not being strict about the history, but maybe taking a twist on it and what might have happened or something like that. And it's motivated him to learn new skills as well, such as editing and marketing. And he's honing his writing and his language skills. And he's just got a new lease of life, a new passion. So if you want to discover your passions, I'm happy to offer you a free consultation about it. And also, you need to build, if you're building a team, you need to build your own support system around you. And part of that is building your own mastermind group, where you can have a safe and supportive place to discuss issues away from your team and try out new things. And I'd like to invite you to my Facebook group, because that's a place where you can try things out. It's called Building Your Passionate Team. And as well as posts and live trainings from me, there's the opportunity to test out your own live within the group. So you've got a nice supportive atmosphere around you and people who can help you. And we all understand what it's like, because it's quite daunting. And we also have a monthly Zoom call where people get together to network and also discuss something. And these are people from around the world. And next month, the topic is how to be confident when speaking in public, whether that's in front of an audience or online, in live videos or Zoom calls. And that came from the group, not from me. That wasn't my suggestion, although that is one of the things that I have done in the past. I've trained people in confident speaking. So it was nice that they came up with it, and it's something that I know I can add value to. So I'm inviting you to join my wonderful group of members and have some fun and get some support and learn new things. So all you have to do is ask to join the group and answer all 3 questions that come up, so that you're approved to join, because I'm very careful who I allow in that group, because obviously I want it to be safe and supportive, and I'm creating that culture of support, encouragement, learning and fun.